What a warm welcome along to Jump to It here on irishracing.com. Lots to look forward to this weekend. Here, there and everywhere, I think it's fair to say. We've got all-weather action at Newcastle. We've got some key guineas and flat trials at Newbury. Of course, centre stage will be Fairyhouse with the Irish Grand National Meeting taking place over the 3 days, kicking off on Saturday and the big one at 5 o'clock on Monday. Vincent Finnegan's on holiday this week, but of course, as always, delighted to bring in betting expert Stephen Harris to the show. And Stephen, as I've just said there, really is kind of something for everyone. And it's kind of hard to keep tabs on it all, I think it's fair to say.
But it's that funny time of year, isn't it? You sort of feel that after Aintree, that's the end of the jumps, really. The ground quickens up. We've got the Sandown Whitbread meeting to come, but we could probably do with a bit of rain for that. And the flat has obviously kicked off properly with the Craven meeting this week, which there's been some really good action, some smallish fields. Bit of controversy about the gallops beforehand, isn't there? Where seemingly the best horse has been running in the gallops rather than the races. So a bit of deja vu with the jump season there. But no, it's certainly a busy time. You've got to keep on top of it. No days off, are there? You know, you miss a day or two, you're missing about 300 runs, basically.
Absolutely, yeah, you're not wrong there. Just you mentioned the Craven there, Stephen. Just very quickly on that race, that was won by Native Trail, who maintains his unbeaten record. Heads to the 2,000 guineas next. Generally a 6-4 favourite on the back of that. What do you make of Native Trail?
Well, I think he's going to take a hell of a lot of beating, isn't he? I mean, he's not going to be stopping, that's for sure. They interviewed Appleby after the race. I think he had about 6 winners and counting. We're recording on Thursday morning, so we've still got a day to go. But his horses are absolutely flying, and Native just looks the real deal. I mean, he does hit a flat spot. Maybe if the ground was really quick for the guineas, he might get tapped. But then again, you'd have thought in a big field they'll go a really strong gallop. He will be flying home. The track's fine. There's more to come from him. He'll probably tighten a fraction for the run, but yeah, I mean, he looks pretty solid. I think there is a bit of 2-1, or there was after the race. I'm not sure I'd be rushing to lay that at the moment, I must admit.
Yeah, it looks to be a very strong hand in that contest, doesn't it? Charlie Appleby, Caribus as well, potentially a likely runner in that. So yeah, all good for the boys in blue. But as I mentioned at the top of the show, all sorts of stuff we're going to be talking about on today's show. So let's have a look at those races. Right, well, we're going to kick off at Newcastle because the Easter Classic card comes to town in the northeast of England on Friday. 3:10 is the first race we're going to have a look at here. It's the 3-year-old all-weather championships conditions stakes. Over £77,000 to the winner. El Caballo heads the market around 13-8 mark here. Stephen, what do you make of this race?
Well, I think El Caballo is rock solid. I mean, at this time of year, Ed, as you know, I think stable form is probably more important than anything. And Carl Burke has had 4 winners from his last 24 runners in the last 14 days at the time of recording. Everything they back is winning or going close. And I think El Caballo, who's done it at Newcastle, he's won over 6 furlongs here in style from the front, albeit in a small field. They went to Lingfield last time. He was well backed. He made all the running again over 7. I don't think dropping back in triple hurt him at all. He's race fit. He's done it at the track. The stable's flying. I think if you can get 2-1, he's probably a pretty good bet. The one who looks the danger is William Haggis's Tiber Flow, who's another very progressive performer. But I think El Caballo's probably achieved more at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Official figures would kind of suggest that as well. Thought Space Cowboy was interesting. Holly Doyle for Archie Watson. Again, another one with a C&D form, which is often the kind of theme, isn't it, for a lot of these Newcastle races when you look through the card. Yeah, a lot of support there for those towards the top of the market. But we'll shuffle on to the final race. Only 6 runners for the Easter Classic. Again, we're going to go on our rant again, but prize money at over £100,000 up for grabs for the winner. You get a 6-runner race on the all-weather. Can be baffling sometimes, as we've discussed in previous shows. Maybe it's not the prize money, which is the enticement. Maybe it's more prestige. Anyway, that's one for another rainy day. Tyrrhenian T, around 4-5. It was a bit of 10-11 floating around when I last looked. For Andrea Zini and Roger Varian. And of course, Stephen, this horse caused a bit of a Twitter meltdown last time out with Jack Mitchell on board when the individual went off 2s on, didn't he, at Kempton? Met all sorts of trouble in running.
Yeah, he saw absolutely no daylight at all. I mean, it's not going to be a secret to anyone who watches racing. This was probably the unluckiest lose you've ever seen in your life. I mean, if you bet it on, he was one of those horses that it was a one-horse market. They hammered him down to 2-1 on. I would have thought he probably should have won by 5 lengths if he'd seen any light. He actually saw none at all until about 10 yards from the line and flew home, basically finished on the bridle. He's going to be very popular here. The one I thought might be slightly better value is United Front. Mick Appleby, again, let's talk about a stable flying. 6 winners from his last 35 runners, Mick Appleby. A brilliant trainer anyway on the all-weather. You'll have to forgive a bad run last time from United Front, but that came on turf, obviously, at Doncaster in the Lincoln. If you look at his record on turf, he's 0 from 11 in that spear, whereas on the all-weather, he's 5 from 16, and he'd run really well at Newcastle over a mile in the winter. He's race fit. He's bound to give his running. The variant short price favourite will probably end up being 6-4, 7-4 on, I expect. And United Front, you might get double figures. He's heading towards that now on the exchanges. I thought in terms of form, there's too much between them. But I take your point, Ed, about Tyrrhenian. See, he's the sort of horse, he's going to be everybody's nap. Everyone who watches the videos, does the form, will know that he's a stone better than last time. He's going to be very hard to beat. But maybe United Front might be better value.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose with Tyrrhenian C, there'll be no excuses on the getting boxed in kind of front with only 6 runners here. So yeah, interesting to see how that race pans out. Well, that's Newcastle on Friday, Easter Classic done and dusted. We're going to move on to the Saturday now. Still on the flat, but we're changing surface. At Newbury, of course, the Greenham meeting kicks off at 1:50 with the surprise stakes, registered as the John Porter, as I still call it. Group 3 action on your cards here. 7 runners due to go to post. I thought this was a bit of a trappy contest, Stephen. Illarab for Tom Marcon and William Haggis vying for favouritism alongside Thunderous of Christoph Sumion over for the ride for the Charlie and Mark Johnson runner there. Max Vega, 100-30, Raymond Tush 4s. How are you kind of going with this one?
Well, I think this has got a horrible shape, hasn't it, Ed? I know this is a tricky stage of the flat season with horses coming back off 5, 6, 7 months off the track. It's also got 7 runners in, so immediately you're not racing to have a bet. But I thought Max Vega was probably just about the form choice. He only ran 4 times last season. He finished up with a really good second over this course and distance on his final start at this level. That was on soft ground. I think better ground suits him. Rafe Beckett, who I was going to say has not had that many runners in the last couple of weeks, but he did have a winner the other day to encourage, and I should think Max Vega will be fit for this prize. But stakes to an absolute... What did you fancy in this one?
Well, I was just going to say, I thought it was interesting. The old boy Red Verdon was back for more here, and Ryan Moore in the saddle for the 9-year-old. Of course, many miles on the clock, but on official figures, he's far from out of this. Unbelievably, I don't know. Outsider of the field, 8-1. I thought maybe a sentimentality taking over, but I thought you could kind of pick a little bit of a hole in all of them. So yeah, not a race I will be particularly getting that involved in. I think it's fair to say.
He's been a fantastic money spinner, Red Verdon, hasn't he? 10 wins from 52 starts. I mean, we always moan, we're jumps people, really, aren't we? We always moan about the fact we never see them. You see them twice a year. You know, what Then they get retired off to stud after they've had 3 runs. Red Verdon, 52 career starts, 10 wins. He's been a fantastic advert for Ed Dunlop, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was running the Group 1s back, 6 years ago now, and he's still going. The old boy there, Red Verdon, for Ed Dunlop team. That is the John Porter sorted. The Fred Darling, or the Dubai Duty Free Stakes, as it's called now. Group 3 action for the fillies comes up at 2:25. Should have a field of 12 for this, or at least there is at the time of recording. What are you making them on this race, Stephen? This is I'm going into proper head-scratching territory here. So many unknowns, so many unknown quantities. And where do you go?
Yeah, it's a minefield. If you're going to have a bet, I'd play very late, wait and see what the market makes them. The people who are putting their money down late in the last few minutes on the exchanges will know which ones are fit and which ones haven't trained on, which ones have done enough work and all the rest of it. From a purely sort of personal preference point of view, I thought Jumbly was the most interesting filly. I liked her last season. She won 3 from 4. Her only disappointment came on very quick ground at Newmarket, over 7, but there were probably excuses that day. She was really progressive, and I think that the reports about her that I've read suggest they think she's definitely trained on. She's got loads of size, and there could be more to come from her this summer. But again, Ed, it's a race to watch and learn for the future, I think, rather than be parting with any of your hard-earned cash. What about you? What did you like in this?
Yeah, indeed. Again, I'm being real negative, Nigel here, sitting on the fence, but it's very hard. Majestic Glory for Ryan Moore and Andrew Balding. Well, she was a filly who looked pretty smart at one stage. Won the Sweet Solera Stakes, and I thought in pretty good style from Wild Beauty, but then inexplicably her form just seemed to tail off, didn't it? She was sent off favourite to win the Rockfell. Never seemed to go yard, and then trailed him last behind in Spiral at Newmarket on her final start. Whether she's just a filly that's perhaps best caught fresh, and at the end of a long campaign started to take its toll, I don't know. But
fascinating that Ryan Moore's book. That would be a very unusual booking for Andrew Balding. I know that there's not going to be a great deal of Sylvester de Souza connection for Andrew Balding this year. They've sort of had a parting of the waves with most of those horses, I think, unless the owners insist. I think he's fallen out of favour. The only thing with Andrew Balding, I get his horses. They've had 2 or 3 fancied this week, and they've both fallen out the back of the TV at Newmarket. He's had 2 winners from 25 runners, but I think they've had a slightly slower start. If you remember, I think last spring they absolutely flew. They were virtually winning sort of 3 or 4 races a day. And it seems this season so far that's not the case. But this is a very difficult race. And 12 runners, fillies, all first-time out horses, 3-year-olds. It's not the most compelling betting shape, is it?
No, exactly. Stakes to a minimum there. But yeah, good point. Wider point in the Andrew Balding team. Keep your eyes on that Majestic Glory. If she just runs with encouragement, it may be a case of bigger days ahead in terms of will strip fitter for the outing. Right, on to the 3 o'clock. Is the Watership Downstirred 2 darn hot Greenham Stakes. Group 3 action here for the Colts and the Geldings. Only the 6 runners going to post here. Angel Blue, Flaming Rib, Gubas, Lusail, Perfect Power, and the Wizard of Eye. All in the mix here. Who do you like?
I like Lusail here. Richard Hanning come alive with a couple of winners this week to encourage. He'd been quiet for the first couple of weeks. They always have got some nice horses. I think they've got a full house again this season. Lusail disappointed on just one occasion, I thought, last season when last of 4 at Doncaster. But our regular listener, Ed, will know that Doncaster, the ground there is a law unto itself. It's very loose. It was good to soft officially, but a lot of horses run inexplicably badly on it and then bounce back. So I've forgiven Lusail last run, last season. Basically, very progressive colt before that. Got loads of size and scope to go up to a mile and beyond, I'd have thought, this season. And I thought Lusail had just about the best form, but this is another trappy 6-runner race. Perfect Power, who's liable to be popular with Sumi on book. That's a very eye-catching booking for Richard Fahey. Richard Fahey has had 1 winner so far, but he's had an awful lot of runners. I don't think they're 100%. I would have thought there's quite a good chance that Perfect Power might need the run as well.
Yeah, indeed. That could be the case for quite a few of them. Interested with Perfect Power up to 7 furlongs. I think that all shapes as though 7 will definitely suit. Really got going. Was on great form last season, but in the middle of the park, I thought was doing all his best work. He was doing his best work in the closing stages, shall we say. So I think the 7 will suit there. Others to note, obviously, officially, the joint highest rated horse in the field will be Angel Bleu for Frankie Dettori and Rafe Beckett. A lot of form on very deep, almost want to call it winter ground in that individual's form there. That would have to be a slight worry, wouldn't it?
It definitely would. Finished second on fast ground at Ascot on the 24th of July. But then after that was soft, heavy, and very heavy for that, and really did handle those conditions well. I would imagine, Ed, I don't know, Newbury, the forecast looks really good. It's going to be sort of 20 and sunny on Saturday. I'd have thought it'd be on the faster side of good. That would have to be a slight concern.
Yeah, indeed, for Angel Bleu. And then obviously we've got Flaming Rib. Now with Hugo Palmer, obviously, taking over the reins at Michael Owen's stables. Flaming Rib, driving on a 5-timer. James Doyle booked here. With the hood on for the first time. So trappy contest, but Lusail for you. Am I right in thinking that?
I prefer Lusail. I wouldn't be that keen on Flaming Rib. I didn't particularly rate Tom Dascombe as a trainer, and Hugo Palmer wouldn't personally be very high on my shortlist. I wouldn't have thought it'd be guaranteed to improve much, Flaming Rib. And also did run 9 times as a juvenile. So whether or not you're going to get any better as a 3-year-old, I rather doubt. I'd probably be against that one.
Okay, indeed. Well, that's the Newbury card on Saturday, done and dusted. We're going to go on to the Irish action. Fairyhouse, of course, kicks off on the Saturday, but we're going to Jump to the Sunday to have a look at a couple of races. Now, obviously, at the time of recording, we're not quite sure of who's exactly lining up and who will be there as the tapes go up. But we'll look at the 310, which is the Mayor's Novice Hurdle Championship final, Grade 1 action here for the fillies. Intriguing encounter, this one, Stephen. I suppose, again, like most races, Willie Mullins with about 73 entries here, a lot of them high class, a lot of them with top class form in the book. It's a case of who can go there, I suppose, and which one of those will line up will pretty much make the market, you would think.
Yeah, it's a very hard race to have a strong opinion, particularly as we're missing our Irish correspondent, Vincent, and his arthritic dog this week. He's gone missing just when we need him most, to be honest. But no, I like Love Envoy here, Harry Fry. Stable going well. They've not got as many runners at this time of year, generally speaking. Obviously, one at Cheltenham, very progressive, winning the 19-runner Ryanair Mayor's Novice Hurdle there. I thought in some style, racing wide throughout and quickening up smartly. The fourth home Nurse Susan's a very smart horse. I know one or two at the front of the market perhaps underperformed or disappointed, but I didn't think there was any fluke. The ground's yielding at the moment in Ireland somehow or other. They've had the rain perhaps that we haven't had in this country. Love Envoy is 5 from 5 over hurdles, been brilliantly campaigned, gradually being raised what task she faced. And I thought it was career best run at Cheltenham. But this is, again, we don't know the runners. And as you say, Willie Mullins seemed to have sort of 3/4 of his stable entered up in this race. So it's a very different. There might end up being 5 runners. I mean, I think Love Envoy is definitely a runner, though, at this stage. I think Harry Fry said that she's going to go over and take them on. So she'll take a bit of beating. I thought she probably sets quite a high standard.
Yeah, indeed. It's a good point. I think what you do make, though, Steve, is a very good point with the weather. Again, if looking at the weather forecast for Fairyhouse, there's more sun than there is anything else. And given Love Envoy, she seemed very happy in the deep winter mud. I mean, it was still on the very soft side at Cheltenham, wasn't it? Again, we're so far out recording this. I think it's definitely an element of weather watch with this race. If the ground really did dry up, that would obviously alter the complexion of this race. No doubt. I'm actually, I like Statuaire in here. She's a filly. People seem to forget she won the Grade 1 Royal Bond in the back end of last year when she got it was unseasonably dry in November. She got some good ground and she bolted up on that occasion. Disappointed since on deep ground, including behind the aforementioned Love Envoy at Cheltenham Festival. But of course, Danny Mullins, our guest on for all of Cheltenham on the Cheltenham shows, and he said at the time this filly gets some decent ground, you'll see a big improvement. So again, she's kind of the one for the notebook with the ground in mind. I think she's a proper spring ground filly, if you like. So,
you're right. You make a very good,
keep an eye on.
Very good point. This is a very dangerous time of year because we're all used to looking at the form without really thinking about the game. Because to be honest, they've run in soft ground for 6 months. Suddenly, it can. We were talking off air, weren't we, about Cheltenham? We had Cheltenham, Kempton, and Southwell on Wednesday, and the ground was good to firm at all 3. And it's a totally different sport. All the form you've seen of these gallopers, last man standing, wars of attrition, totally irrelevant. It's much more about speed, and the margins are much finer now. The fields are closer packed together. They come to 2 out. There's 8 of them in with a chance, whereas we've been watching for months and months and months, strung out all over the tracks, lots of them beating a mile out and powering home in hot, deep ground. Well, it's a totally different sport. And you can get caught as a punter, can't you, where you're still in that mindset. Well, that was very impressive, won by 10 lengths. You forget that it's now good to firm, and it's irrelevant, you know. So it's a difficult time. With Love Envoy, if the ground did dry up at Fairyhouse, that would be a big negative, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit of a theme, but definitely a weather watch at the moment, especially with that race, as far as that race is concerned. On to the 4:55. It's the BoyleSports Gold Cup Novice Chase Grade 1 action here. Really looking forward to this. Our gut feeling is we've got 13 enters at time of recording. This will probably cut up into a small field, especially with Willie Mullins in a recent bulletin saying he intends to run Galopin Des Champs here, who of course was sauntering clear, wasn't he, at the Cheltenham Festival in the Marsh Chase over 2.5 miles until that infamous slip and mishap at the last when a dozen lengths clear of Bob Ollinger. Bob Ollinger not going to be lining up here. He goes to the 3-mile novice chase at the Punchestown Festival, calling in Henry de Bromhead. So you would think, looking at it on official rating, Stephen, Galopin Des Champs is going to be a short price, and if feeling no ill effects from the Cheltenham tumble, will take all the beating here.
Yeah, he's going to be a short price. I mean, just from a personal point of view, I hate backing unlucky fallers next time out. I'm sort of quite a contrarian, and again, then they're very rarely overpriced. Put it that way. Everyone knows would have won by 30 lengths, but Bob Ollinger, I think, went and missed that. That wasn't the real Bob Ollinger for me. But we were talking about Shishkin, weren't we? Not right, nothing to do with the ground at all. There's something physically amiss, and I mean, I would be amazed if we saw Bob Ollinger again this season. If we do, I'll be bang against him, because I thought he didn't look right. I didn't like the way he's carrying his head or his tail, or how he jumped either. So basically, you could argue, to be a contrarian, that Galopin Des Champs had a solo trial against nothing and would have come home alone. So whether that represents any improvement, I rather don't. I'm going to give the mare another chance here, Ed. We're both keen on her for Cheltenham, weren't we? Riviere d'Etal. Things went wrong at Cheltenham. There was a rag. Magic Days of de Bromhead's absolutely ruined her on the lead. She wasn't able to dominate. But if you go back to her previous form, she wasn't disgraced at Cheltenham. That previous run, when second to Blue Lord at Leopardstown in February, was a cracking effort, and she's a real scrapper. She'll front run, get a positive ride, make life difficult for Galopin Des Champs, who probably wants to lead as well. So I could see her bouncing back after Cheltenham. Gordon Elliott maybe wasn't quite firing on all cylinders at the festival. I don't know. I know he had winners, but he's had in the last 14 days, Gordon Elliott. So they're obviously all well there. I wouldn't be surprised if she bounced back. Certainly, if Galopin Des Champs was a very short price, which, as you say, could easily happen. There could be 4 runners in this. I mean, we're looking at 13 at the minute, but there won't be more than 5 or 6. I wouldn't have thought. Perhaps Riviere d'Etal will be better value getting the weight.
Yeah, indeed. Something to bear in mind there. Again, keep your eyes on how that race shapes up, but encouraging, at least we like to see our stars on the racetrack there. See if Galopin Des Champs could put in an exhibition round of jumping, and again, the debate will rumble on, no doubt. Next season, is the horse a Ryanair horse, a Gold Cup horse? Willie Mullins has mentioned they might even come back to 2 miles with him, given how much pace he's got. So definitely an exciting individual, one we look forward to seeing. Very quickly, we'll move on to the big one on Monday. Of course, the BoyleSports Irish Grand National comes at 5 o'clock. We're shooting in the dark a little bit here, where you're kind of having to piece bits together from stable bulletins and announcements on Twitter as to who's intended to line up, I think it's fair to say. But it sounds like Farclas for Gordon Elliott is going to run. Galliard de Menil for Willie Mullins, I believe, has been purchased by JP McManus, or was about to be purchased by JP McManus for 170,000 plus the Donnelly, 170 million plus the Donnelly's art collection. I don't know whether that's a Twitter rumor gone out of control, but I'm sure something will be clarified on that in the upcoming days. But don't be shocked if you see Galliard de Menil in the JP McManus colours by the time the race comes around. They're the 8-1 joint favourites, and then it's a bit of a guess up here with Gigginstown House Stud having numerous entries. JP McManus has about 14, 15 entered here. Hard to work out who exactly is going to line up. Yeah, I mean, I think there's 40. I'm just scrolling down now, sort of wearing out my phone. 51 horses declared at the minute. I mean, it's 8-1, 10-1 the field for looking. I always feel sorry for the commentator in these races, Ed. As you say, JP, I think, has got about 14 entered. They'll probably all run if they get in. You're trying to call them in a sort of hairy staying chase. They're going a million miles an hour. I would give another chance to Run Wild Fred here. My regular listener will remember quite strong for a few months for the Grand National at Aintree the other weekend. 25-1, 20-1, ended up 8. Nearly favourite on the exchange at the finish. As I've told all my relations who asked me what happened to your Grand National nap, I said he's absolutely cruising hard on the bridle when he departed. Of course, he fell at the 8th, which is after about a mile. So in truth, we'll never know. But he was going. He'd taken to it, and it was quite a shock when he fell. He was switched towards the inside. I think it was the canal turn he went at, and he switched him right towards the inside at an angle, and the horse sort of ended up diving down into the camber on the inside and lost his legs. And obviously none the worse. I think he's going to run. He's only ever run 3 times over marathon trips. He's run 2 screamers and fell, obviously, the other day. But he's unexposed, granted, a proper test of stamina. I do think he wants goodish ground. So if it dries out, no problem. 3 mile 5, no problem. I think he's got a bit more upside. But obviously, it's a minefield of a race. Yeah, absolutely. Listening to the bulletins from the O'Learys, it sounds like Farclas, Sam Crow, and Run Wild Fred are 3 of definite intended runners, shall we say, from their battalion that have been entered. I just wanted it a big price here. I've gone for a bit of a left of field one with Ronald Pump, who a bit of an unusual sort in the fact this horse is 9, only had the 4 starts over fences, winning once, funny enough, came at this track over the bigger obstacles. But it's a horse who's shown some very high class staying hurdle form, and even at intermediate trips as well. Has chased home a Honeysuckle on 2 occasions in Hatton's Grey. So it's clearly got a big engine. And I thought if this horse can get in a nice little rhythm, perhaps in a race where there are a lot more exposed types in this sphere, and we kind of know where we are with them, he could be the joker in the pack at 20 to 1 or so. But as you say, Stephen, at this stage, probably not a race I'm going to be going in all guns blazing, shall we say. But I did think Ronald Pump definitely of interest. I could see him shortening up and is an intended runner according to connections. Right, that pretty much completes a look to the weekend action. Now we'll go for our tips of the week. Well, Stephen Harris, as we've said, it's almost spoiled for choice where to go for this weekend. But give us, jump to it, listeners and viewers, your best bets of the weekend, please.
Yeah, I've gone a bit cold personally over the last few weeks. Blaming the sort of ground changing, the seasons changing, but trying to think, running out of excuses. Hopefully, you found a couple of winners. Gone for some quite big prices this weekend at Musselburgh to start with on Saturday in the 3:14 Queen's Cup, competitive staying handicap. I'm keen on HMS President here. I think he's 20, 16 to 1 each way. Eve Johnson Horton, yet to catch fire, but a good trainer, very rare visitor up to Musselburgh. And this one needs fast ground, basically. That's the long and the short of it. Has become quite well handicapped after a couple of poor runs last season on much softer ground, slipped a few pounds down the weights, ran an absolute screamer on fast ground at Doncaster last season. I think Musselburgh, a really speed, flat, right-handed track on drying ground, be absolutely ideal. Nicola Curry booked. I'm told that the right people, the Ponsonby fans have backed HMS President with a firm earlier in the week at 20. So a big run clearly expected. I think HMS President should be a bit of value. And over at Newbury, in the 3:45 there, another competitive handicap. I'm going with the race fitness of Irish Admiral, who ran really well in the William Hill Lincoln at Doncaster, when very easy to back. He remains with a bit of upside. I think the drying ground at Newbury will definitely suit him. Tom Marquand replaces Stevie Donahue, which is probably a plus. Got all the headgear on, should go really well.
Magic stuff. Well, best of luck with all those selections for the weekend. Yeah, I thought this was very tricky, to be fair. But anyway, I'm going on to Haydock and the jumps. The 5:01 on Saturday. Vienna Court in the mare's chase there. Of course, she was an individual, won at Cheltenham a couple of times earlier in the season. Was, to be blunt, I think just out of her depth in the mare's chase at the Cheltenham Festival behind Ellie May. Into calmer waters here in the handicap company. I thought she could get the job done in that assignment. Aforementioned Statuaire in the 3:10 on Sunday, I should say, at Fairyhouse. I'm putting my eggs in the sunshine basket there because it's good yielding in places at the time of recording. The sun really comes out and it does dry up. I think she's an individual with a fair turn of foot. I actually think 2.5 miles on good ground at Fairyhouse. They're all ticks in the right boxes, shall we say. But as Danny Mullins has said, he couldn't harp on enough about her in regards to the ground on previous shows. He said, the ground had gone for it at the Cheltenham Festival. There will be another day when the ground is good, and the form book would suggest that too. And then on to the big one, as I said, Ronald Pump. I just think it's a big price. I could see this race cutting up towards the top of the market there. Ronald Pump at 20 to 1, or there or thereabouts for the Irish Grand National. A small each way play in a race, as you say. It'd be commentators craziness here. If you've got 7 Giggins down, 12 JP McManus, the cap system, as I used to call it, the Racing Post. The absolute headaches in the printing press here when you get a phone call to say, no, the orange cap's now the blue cap, the white cap's not the green cap, and the paper will be about 3 hours late off stone. Well, it was anyway when I was working on it. But yeah, those were the days. But indeed, it should be great fun nonetheless. My thanks for you for watching at home, and of course, my thanks to you, Stephen, for all your input. Have you got much planned for Easter? Are you on an Easter egg hunt, or are you going to sit on the sofa and eat them yourself?
We've got an Easter egg hunt on Sunday with all the children coming, basically, sisters' children, all the rest of it. I'm hoping to get that finished, Ed, early, so I can slide off to Plumpton before anyone has to do the washing up and nobody sees me going. But details to follow on that.
Yeah, good luck with that one. Yeah, I'll probably be in a similar kind of boat. Yeah, there'll be Easter egg hunts galore going on to keep the youngsters entertained, and yeah, hopefully try and keep an eye on a bit of Newton Abbott card, my type of thing.
Yeah.
There with Paul Nichols sending a few decent horses to that meeting. It looks like, but all in all, yeah, many thanks for listening. Many thanks to you again, Stephen. Enjoy your Easter, of course. Keep all your eyes on Stephen's selections on bettingexpert.com, and don't forget to keep tabs on everything Fairyhouse related and all flat racing related. IrishRacing.com with a big bonanza of a weekend in store. If you do like to have a bet, please do gamble responsibly. And we'll do it all again next week, where we will be having a review of Fairyhouse, and specifically the Irish Grand National. Bye for now.